in the tablet either as something for you, the enumerator and supervisor, to read to yourself. So don't be worried about, I don't know what item 13, if I need material or not. Every single item tells you what you need when you get to it, okay? Every single item tells you what to say to the child. Every single item helps you with how you probe. But of course, the more you read it and the more familiar you are with this item, you know, the better it will be for you to administer. All right. So, behaviors and attitudes with children. And these are, I'm not inventing this. This is something that Adela has shared with everyone who conducts it. So you probably have different ideas of what works in Rwanda with children you don't know as enumerators. And so feel free to, you know, add these things as well. So the idea is that you first want to establish a relaxed and playful rapport with the child. So you don't want to be, you know, physically hugging or like best friends with this child you don't know, but you want to be respectful and you know, kind of like a child of an aunt that lives far away that you're meeting for the first time. So somebody who's, you know, you want to be nice and sweet to them, but you don't also want to be overly, definitely not physical with them, right? So physical contact. And again, Rwanda in every part of the country might have different attitudes as well, which I'm happy to hear about and learn about. So you first want to introduce yourself. Again, you come into the household, you've already met the parent, but maybe the child wasn't paying attention and you want to introduce yourself if you haven't already. You know, not just from the consent form, but just saying, hi, my name is, you know, nice to meet you. You can ask a few questions. You know, like, you know, oh, do you like your school, or what's your favorite game, or you see that they're doing something when you arrive, you're like, oh, do you like that, you know, do you like playing with that person? Just something very general to just show that you can be a human being and not just somebody who's repeating a test, right? And that will help you with the consent, right? That the child feels comfortable with you, they're more likely to say yes and consent. And again, this whole assessment needs to be considered as playing games and as not doing schoolwork, not something that's serious, but something that's just kind of a playful, let's do a few games together and then you can go on and do whatever you're doing before I left. I didn't express, my experience is that I've traveled in Rwanda once. It was in February this past year. And I went to 4 different districts, and I went to very rural, remote ECD centers. And I know that many of these ECD centers have no toys. And this is going to depend on one ECD center versus another. Most likely in the homes, many of the children that you're seeing will not have toys. They can. They might have made toys with things outside. They might have family that makes toys for them. But what you're showing them is generally, these materials that you're bringing are generally things that they haven't seen necessarily, right? And I'm not making a generalization because, as I said, it's going to differ from where you are in one environment versus another. So when you show these materials to a child, they might be interested because they don't have a lot of things like that that they see on a regular basis. So again, maybe there's some ideas that or things that people have experienced they see that how to make it easier and you want to share them with your colleagues now. And maybe none of this makes sense in Rwanda, but I don't know if you can let me know.
Sorry a moment.
Yeah.
sibyo in case bazaba barimo gukeneza cyangwa se ari kubitewe hamwe n'ikibazo kibaye wumva ati se wowe wabyagurira kuri matine idea n'ubundi just ubundi niba bwiza idea na house of survey bigomba kubera mu rugo rw'umwana w'umwana cyangwa se mu rugo rw'umuntu uzajya ku ishuri baguhe amazina y'umwana n'ababyeyi ni muri cya gihe ababyeyi baza gutora abana mujyane nabo mu kubaganiriza ko mu bintu ndetse ntabwo azajya leta sabeti uzajya yijyana ibintu leta azajya akora ntuzi ayigera na house of survey niba bari batatu buri umwe azajya akora ntuzi ebyiri house of survey na ayigera si abana b'abana umunani tuzabereka structure ariko muzajya mugenda muzikora kuko house of survey ni ntoya cyane ntabwo ari ndende nyine niyo twavuze ngo turashaka ukuntu ahantu hazagendera kandi niyo usanga mu nzu mugenda mukore wenda nk'ishuri dufate nk'umunsi wo kujya gukora izo agera n'amazi nawe byose aho ngaho waba ugiye gukora practice cyangwa se pilot nibwo tuzareba n'ifeza birashoboka cyane nawe ushobora ushobora kuba ku ishuri ukareba uti wenda ntabwo biri bukunde ko zose zikorwa ahubwo atemererwa abana babiri tubasubire uyu munsi tubaganirize abandi bazaganirizwe kuko murabizi ko tuba dukora no muri weekend kuko muzajya mugira abana mubasunika gutyo ibyo bituma aho bari gukora ku gatanu nibo bakora ku gatandatu abandi bakora n'umunsi wo kuri mirongo niyo tukaba duswa mu muganga no gutera kuko muzajya muva mu karere ari uko byose byagiye nibwo bagiye kuvuga bino ahubwo bidemirwe cyane mu byo tutagaragara ariko mu byo rukanga neza ntasabwe imana so we are just introducing brothers to tell us some experience.
Okay. thing with young children is not all of them have been around a lot of strangers. You know, so sometimes they think it's like a health person or somebody who's going to, you know, they might be fearful when they first see somebody strange, but I think that if your experience and obviously, you know, you can speak to a child in the appropriate way, like I would go to a French child and I would never say, bonjour monsieur, bonjour madame. I would be like, ah, salut, which is much more informal. And, you know, and I know you understand, some of you understand some French, so I would never say to a child what I would say to an adult, right? It's not the same. Even if I say to the parent of the house, but I would say, salut, or comment ça va? Very simple little words that kids feel more comfortable, right? Are very, very simple. Hi, how are you doing? You know, in English. So again, I think this is very specific to your work and what you know, your experience.
Yes.
These are some examples of Vadela that's been done in different countries. I don't know what countries these are, so I apologize. But you see that people are often working on like a mat outside. So when I said earlier to find a place where the child's going to get comfortable, you know, you have to also be comfortable because you're going to be sitting down. So you can have your legs out like the woman on the right, your legs crossed like the woman on the left. But you know, you're close but not too far from the child, and you can, you know, you don't want to be where lots of people are passing by. So you find a quiet place if you can. That's not in the middle of like the cooking area or in the front where all the people are coming in and watching and seeing what's happening. Yeah? You want the child to remain with their vision focused on you, not on everything else. One thing that's important is also you can, at this age, children don't sit still very long, and they don't like to be sitting still for a long time. And if you see that they get a little fidgety, you say, let's take a break, and you can stand up and stretch or jump or do little movements. And you're like, okay, let's go back, you know, let's go back to the new test. But you always take the breaks after you finish an item, not in the middle of an item, okay? Even if it's not timed. You want to make sure you finish an item, and if you've seen that the child's maybe less concentrated, take a little stretch, do a little something, you know, or you can tell them, sing me a little song, and then go back to the next item. So sometimes it takes a little longer, and I know everybody's under pressure to finish these, a certain number of assessments per day, but the child will be more likely to take less time if you can take that little break, if you need it. Not every child will need it. Another attitude that Adela insists is that you want to make sure that you're neutral and very consistent in your encouragement. Not saying you're doing a great job, not saying that was great, good for you, but more focusing on the fact that the child is working hard, right? That the child is participating in, oh, you're working very hard, or you're doing, you know, you're doing a great job of helping me with these games, or, you know, something that's more neutral. In terms of encouragement. More about how the child's participating versus getting good and bad answers, right? This is a very, sometimes I read this and I find it's very American of a perspective, and sometimes I read it and I think, well, this is a good way to help encourage a child as well. So, you know, again, this is, in France it takes a lot of effort, and we're always talking about, in pedagogy here and in other countries that are Francophone Africa where I've worked, talk a lot about how teachers put children down and focus on the negative. We want to focus on the effort, not on the right or wrong. Right? This is, I think, the main point of this attitude. We don't want you to, you know, give hints to any of the questions. We don't want any facial expressions, like saying, ooh, you know, like you squint your eyes or you laugh or something, because a child is going to react to your face. That they will be looking at you to get an assessment: am I doing good or bad? Am I doing this right? For example, there's the puzzle piece that they have to put together. They might look up at you, and if you're kind of like, you're making a face like, oh, that's really not right at all, then they're going to know. And we don't want to have any difference amongst enumerators in how they're administrating this test. You have to be patient, because children sometimes take a long time to do some of these items. Some are timed, and sometimes you have to really take your time. So let's just make sure we have a very positive attitude, and the more you practice through these, even with children in your environment, or with your colleagues, the more comfortable you will feel doing this with a child you don't know. Highly encourage practicing. So this is the general rules of administrating Adela. As I said, all the instructions are on the Adela tablets. They have been programmed in, and everything is very clearly marked. If there's ever a point when you're going through the tablet, and we will see this in enumerators, where you have a doubt, it hasn't been well translated, maybe from the English, or if it doesn't make sense to the enumerators, we'll see this when we do the training with the enumerators. We don't have time for going through it all today, but as you read it, feel free to also bring up places where it's not very clear, because that'll be very important for the training. And you'll see this when you administer. I think everyone has to, here in this room today, has to administer Adela at least once or twice, if I'm not mistaken, before the end of the week. So everything in the guide will come in two forms. Either it will be in bold, and that's why I put it in yellow. Bold type in boxes indicates the things that you must say to the child out loud. You have to read it exactly and completely as it appears. It's important that you do this so that all the data collected is done in the same way for every children. So it's like in theater. You have to read exactly what it tells you to say. Please try not to say it differently. And we will talk about what to do if the child doesn't understand. Again, this questionnaire has been tested in so many countries that it's at this point been corrected so many times that it should be working for children in all environments. And this particular version has recently been tested in Rwanda, so it should work well. Italic, so when it's slanted, means that these are instructions for you, the assessor. And so you do not read it to the child. You follow them as they are written, but you do not read them out loud. But they are there to help you. Okay? And I think I put an example. No, I didn't put an example. We will have an example coming soon here. I'll should be used by all enumerators after the child has been quiet, paused for 5 seconds or more. Don't rush into the prompt before that, as this is the only prompt allowed. And the prompt we just saw it before, right? This is the prompt. Are there any other children who you like to play with? But it's told you can only do it once and after 5 seconds. Okay? Again, we'll do this whole item with the enumerators. But this is when there's a 5 second, when the child has stopped for 5 seconds, it's the only time you're allowed to ask the whole sentence I just read before. If the child points to their friends in the room or nearby, you have to prompt to ask for their name. How to score. This item is about the child's peer network. Now this is always a little complicated because we are going to be in the child's household. And the child might think of their friends as being their brother and their sister and their cousins and all these things. In Adela, we do not count those. We can count, sorry, in Adela we do count these as part of their peer network, right? It doesn't matter that they're friends from a different family, it's who the child plays with. This is very important in terms of social and emotional development, that the child is being basically assessed whether or not they have already developed a social skill, which is being with other children, right? But you cannot count as friends, their aunts, their uncles, their parents, their teachers. Those aren't friends. They're not counted. And obviously any Mickey Mouse, dogs, cows, any other animals cannot be counted as their friends. Okay? So, again, when a child tells you the names, it's going to be very difficult for you to know if it's an auntie or if it's a cousin. So, you can make sure, just to clarify, you can ask, are you referring to a child? And they will say yes or no. Okay. It's very difficult because you don't want to prompt them, but you want to make sure that they're talking about children. All right, so if the child, as I said before, if the child repeats the same name, you don't count that person twice. You verify, are you talking about the same Maria, for example? Or, if somebody says, Adelaide twice, well, make sure it's 2 different Adelaides. Yeah. There are probably going to be questions on this one. Maybe not. Okay, we're going to soon see a video that Adela has made, which will help with some of these issues, so you can see it happening. They're very well done, and we'll show all of them that we have available during the enumerator training in a few today. Hopefully, if the connection works. Okay. So this is an example another example of built-in coding. This is item 10, that comes right after the other one. This is about emotional awareness, regulation, social emotional. You don't read that to the child. These are just for you. Materials, you don't need anything. None. So, now I have some questions about feelings. Think for a moment and tell me what makes you feel sad. Please don't. I'm going to ask you the question.
Yes.
Now I have questions about feelings. Think for a moment and tell me what makes you feel sad. if you're not clear, you can say, why did that make you feel sad? But if the child cannot name something that makes them sad, you skip to the next question about happiness, because there's A, B, and C are related to sadness in this question, and then you just go to D about happiness. Okay? So, sorry. In this question, there's a probe, which is this. It's built into the question. How, why does that make you sad? For example, one of the examples I read is, what makes you sad? And the child says, an onion. And you're like, what? How does that make you sad, an onion, right? Because it's not very clear. And then the child explains, oh, well, when my mommy cuts onions, it makes me cry. Okay? So they understand the notion of sadness. That is part of the assessment. And they answer that they, in the scoring, you answer that they have understood. But when they first say onion, you have no idea why, if you're not thinking about it. But you don't want to assume, you want to probe. So if you had said, a red car, I would be like, well, why does that make you sad? And then you say, because I lost my red car last week. Okay, there we understand. So you probe as suggested by asking why or how that makes you sad, and when the child gives you an answer that's not immediately easy to interpret, okay? If the response is clear, you do not have to probe. If the child doesn't say what makes them sad, you skip to question D. It should be pretty straightforward. So I'm going to try and show you a video now, if I can. I'm part of the generation that learned with computers and all these things, so you'll have to forgive me if it doesn't work. So I'm going to share a new window with a video, and this is the one that's called Emotional Awareness. If I can tell me if you're seeing it. Are you seeing Adela written many different times? Yes. Yay. I'm going to pause. Did you hear the sound?
No, play again.
Okay, I paused it to make sure. I'll play it, and please let me know if you hear the sound okay. Is that okay?
We are not hearing the sounds.
You're not hearing the sound.
Yes.
Well, I can read what it says, but it's also, I think, written in text underneath. Okay, because I think Benjamin had told me you were going to be able to make sure you could hear, everyone could hear. I don't know what I can do on my side. I have put the sound to the maximum. Let me try again.
Maybe, sorry, Annalise. So I'm just remembering when I was trying to do something similar. I think you have to change your audio settings in a way that allows your computer audio to go through the presentation, kind of, but I don't recall exactly where this was done. Somewhere in the audio settings in Teams, probably.
Maybe she can use VRC or another playing software.
Try again. And apologies for not having tested this earlier. Does that work better?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I don't know about the delay you have. So go back to the beginning where there's a little bit of music.
Can you use VRC to play it?
I'm sorry? I didn't hear you. It's so loud for me now. You said?
Can you use VLC? Or just you are paying it online or?
The thing is, I cannot integrate this into the presentation because this belongs to Adela and I don't have the capacity to do so. They've blocked it. And I can't give you, unless I give you the link, which is linked to Johanna's password account, it might take a long time. Benjamin, solution?
Maybe just, yeah, an idea. Maybe I can give it a try on my end. If you just send me where to find it in the Idea network, Anais, then I can just give it a quick try maybe.
Yep. I will send it to you here in the chat.
It's Idea tools and then training videos.
I just sent you the link in the chat.
Okay.
And it's the one called emotional awareness. It's the second one down.
Okay, let me give it a try. I'm just trying to set my settings.
Thank you.
But not sure if it works. Just try it out. I assume you are not hearing, right? Innocent? Were you able to hear the music earlier? No.
Not yet.
I don't hear it either, Benjamin.
Okay.
I just speak over and repeat what the person is saying.
Yeah, maybe that's okay.
I just do that, and we'll try and figure out how to do this better for in person. In person, we should be able to log in from where we are locally.
Yeah, that should be. Sorry for insulting.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry for everyone else, but my voice is not. I get bored of hearing my own voice, so I'm sure that happens for you too. Let's see. Where was I sharing? Here we go. Do you see it says preparation now? Yeah, does everybody see preparation on the screen?
You're not sharing.
Not sharing, that's fine. Okay, when you started sharing, unless it's taking me out. There you go. Do you see preparation?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to read what they say, and you will see the actions. And I will probably take pauses. This is not very long. It's a 3-minute video. We're looking at the... Sure. Sorry, I don't do translations, so, or interpretations. So it said, this enumerator has collected the background information on the child. I think I have to pause, so I'm going to apologize in advance. It's chosen equal. Here we go. They're midway through the assessment and they have now come to the emotional awareness task. This item has 4 questions and allows the enumerator, the assessor, to probe if the child doesn't respond right away. These questions are about feelings, he says.
So, can I open it and share it?
Can you think for a moment? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can
Were you
I?
saying something?
Yes, I'm asking just if I can open it here and just share my screen with you to see if it is working.
The issue is that this is linked to an account
Ah,
in Adela. It's not public information. It's linked to the account that's held by Johanna.
okay.
So Benjamin, I have it automatically saved, so if Benjamin wants to go ahead and share that information here now, we can do so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Maybe for now, let's not. I will check if we can share, but I don't think we can just share the access to the account.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just go back. He's reading the probe. This is the emotional awareness. So let me go back to what he's saying. You see the video, correct?
Yes.
Easton?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the question we just had before. He's saying, if you think for a moment and tell me what makes you feel sad. This is item 10 we just saw. The child says, when somebody's mad at me. The numerator says, so you feel sad when somebody's mad at you? And the child says, yeah. So he probed because he wasn't clear he heard well. Maybe because the child's very timid or has his finger in his mouth. He just verified, and the child said, yeah. What do you do to feel better when you are feeling sad? That's the part B. The child says you take a deep breath, which I didn't understand, but the enumerator repeats, you take a deep breath. Is there anything else you do to make yourself feel better when you're feeling sad? Anything else? Said the enumerator. Take a deep breath. So he repeats, okay, nothing, just take a deep breath. This is another example of the woman asking a young girl. The task plays out. Can you think for a minute and tell me what makes you feel sad? Right. Right? How does that make you feel sad? You don't know. Okay. In this case, this is the narrator speaking now. In this case, the child's response accurately identify a positive response. So the child says, I'll go back so it's clear. It's hard for the translation, so I'll do it twice. Can you think for a minute and tell me what makes you feel sad? Try. How does that make you feel? The girl says, no. In this case, the child's response does not appropriately identify a cause of sadness. So her response is. So as a result, they move to question D, which is this one. tell me something that makes you happy? The girl says, you don't know? And then the enumerator says, you don't know? There's nothing that makes you happy? And the girl shakes her head, which in American English means no. Okay. So the rest is just basically what we said before, is that you have to take time to understand these differences. It's just, I know this is not ideal how we're showing this video. Are there any questions? Be still. The microphone is muted.
Yes.
I was asking if there are any questions from your side?
Any question? No question.
On the video? No? I know it's not ideal. But it gives you an idea of how children act. You know, some are very fidgety and shyer and maybe younger. The girl is, than the boy who's much more able to answer the question. Okay?
Yes.
So again, this is not ideal. We need to fix this for the next training for sure. I'm going back to sharing my screen from before. Okay. And unfortunately, I can't share these links with you because we have this whole password, respect of IDELA. So it's a little complicated for us. So I'm trying to see what you can see. So you can see the PowerPoint, okay? So we have a discussion, a little moment for discussing what kind of behavior should an enumerator avoid during the test. This is not necessarily a test of what we've just been talking about, but maybe you have some different ideas of things that you should avoid doing during this assessment. And we want to make sure that you clearly understand the child in this process. So what are some things that an enumerator should not be doing to not make the test not as valid as we would like? Any ideas? I'm sure you have some.
There is one idea here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Chizarazar. One of the behaviors that enumerator should avoid is to be nervous or have a quarrel with either with the parent or with the child.
I'm sorry, who was nervous? I didn't hear very well.
Excuse me?
Could you repeat, please? I did not hear you well.
I'm saying that the enumerators should not be nervous when the children give them how can I say it? Inappropriate answers. They should keep the good mood as they start. And also to avoid the quarrel with the children. As you saw in those videos, there was 2 children, if I remember well. The second one was like not active or not willing to share the ideas. But the enumerator keep the same mood versus as he began.
Yes. They didn't get, stop fidgeting. They didn't tell the child, stop moving around, or you're not paying attention. That's exactly true. They just kept smiling and going, okay. And you couldn't hear it, but you could hear the voice was very happy and positive of the woman.
There is another idea here.
Which idea?
Yes, I'm listening.
Hi. My name
Hello.
is Amy. During the tests, you can avoid to harm the child. You can keep smiling for them in order to gain more information that you want.
So I'm sorry, you said it's breaking up a little. You said that you keep smiling
Yes.
even if you don't get response?
You can be passionate about the child, what you are saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you see that sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but this is why I insisted on the 5 seconds, because it seems like a very long time, but not for a child. For us adults, we get impatient faster. And some cultures, faster than others. So, thank you. The assessment or finishing it on time, finishing the assessment at all, they can always stop at any time. You don't want to correct them or identify that they've made a mistake. In no way does a child know how you're scoring. They're not supposed to see your tablet and what you're scoring. If you put a 1 or a 0, they shouldn't know. So they don't know if they're doing the right thing or not the right thing. It's okay. You don't want to correct them and be like, oh no, that's wrong, and then write 0 on your tablet. Okay? So I want to get into the different types of, as I said in the beginning, there are many different things. I want to get into some more technical parts of the items. Some of them have practice questions, and there are 3 of them. It's items 13, 14, and 18, and we're not going to be looking at this today in detail, but just so you know, it's written on the slide when you want to go back and look. A practice question is something that you start saying to the child that helps to introduce the concept or the skill that you're going to be assessing the child on. So they understand what's going to happen before the actual part of the assessment, right? And so when you have a practice part in your item, so item 13, 14, or 18, you're going to have to administer something with this practice. When the child responds correctly, you still have to score it. You write that the response was correct, and you repeat the correct response. If the child does not respond or responds incorrectly, you provide a positive encouragement, and only because this is a practice question. You will provide the correct response for the child and explain why. Okay? And because the video is not working, I'm going to share, just so you understand, I'm going to share an example on my screen. So I want to share a different window. Why am I not able to do this today? I don't know, I must be tired. Here, I'm sharing a different window, which is not showing on my computer screen. This is very interesting. Sorry, give me a second. I will stop sharing this one to get to the other one. Okay. So I will now share this screen. You see this one, item 13?
Yes.
Okay, so you see very clearly, is it big enough for everyone in the back?
Yes.
I can make it bigger. Okay. Item 13 is about a short-term memory. Part called executive function. So you don't need any materials, but you see how it starts by saying practice. So if the child makes an error, this is italics, this is for you, the enumerator, to read to yourself. Supply the correct answer on the practice items only. So this basically, you're practicing the test, right, the game. So this is what you read to the child. This is another game. I'm going to say a list of numbers one after another. After you hear the numbers, I want you to repeat them to me in the same order. Wait for me to say all the numbers before you repeat them. Please listen carefully. Let's try a couple for practice. So this is the rule. You pause for 1 second in between each number in the sequence. For example, 5, 2. That's a full second. If the child makes an error on the practice, supply the correct answer and repeat the instructions to ensure the child understands. So I'm going to practice with who's by the microphone. I'm going to practice with the person closest to the microphone. 6, 1, 3. Can you please repeat?
Yes. Okay, start again.
6, 1, 3.
In Kinyarwanda or just English?
In Kinyarwanda, I won't understand completely.
Okay.
Please, Kinyarwanda, I'll learn.
Gatandatu, rimwe, gatatu. I don't.
Oh, you're back.
Okay.
So, in Kinyarwanda, you were saying?
Gatandatu, rimwe, gatatu.
Okay, I think that's correct.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So you've understood. So once the child responds, you do 3 practice. You can do whatever numbers you want. You do it 3 times. If you hadn't understood, I would say, listen carefully. I'm going to repeat 3 numbers, one after another. You can repeat it a little bit differently if you want. Just repeat it to me at the same order. So you repeat this. You do it 3 times maximum to practice. Okay?
Okay.
And then when you start the assessment part, you say, well, they said if the child does not respond correctly after 3 practice sessions, you stop this item and you move on to the next item. So you don't do, if the child does not do the practice correctly, you can tell them the correct answer in the practice, but if by the 3rd time they're still not getting it, you move on. You don't do this item. Okay? So the assessment would be, okay, now let's do some more, just listen carefully and do your best. In this point, you have the ones that come up, and then you have a scoring specifically for that. So you'll see the scoring here below. So if I do 1 and 6, and then they repeat 1 and 6 correctly, you click 1. If we've skipped, it's 999. Okay? Incorrect is, we'll get to the scoring again in a little bit, in a few minutes.